Welcome back to Capital Connections. I'm your host, John O'Connor. Let's now rejoin the citizens from the River Valley Community College area for the last segment of Hillary Clinton's town meeting as she focused on STEM education.
Look, when we look at job forecasts, one thing you have to see very clearly is that science, technology, engineering, mathematics, computer coding, those related subjects have a lot more job promise than comparable other areas. And so we need to do all that we can. I know you're doing it here at River Valley. We need to do everything we can to get more people in general, and specifically more young women, into STEM courses. I've been pleased. I visited the New Hampshire Technical Institute a few weeks ago, and I met a lot of young women who were in some of the science courses, some of the engineering courses. I had the same experience in Iowa. I think it's a three-part problem. Number one, you have to start early to convince young women they can do science, technology, engineering, and math. And that has to be both in the family, the community, and the school. And I think there has to be more done so that if you look at elementary students, little girls are as excited about math and science as little boys. But as they get older, they get discouraged. And they get, to go back to the question about discrimination, they get kind of a bad reaction from their peers and their friends about whether or not they are smart enough or whether a girl can do this. And you have to have really tough skin. If you want to be in STEM or you want to run for office, you got to have tough skin if you are out there. And for a lot of these young women, that's not a skill they've acquired. So the adults around them, the teachers, their families, people have to keep telling young women, you can do this. Don't listen to them. You can do this. And the teachers have to reinforce that. There is a problem, however. Our technology world is not so welcoming to women, and we have to do a better job kind of breaking down those barriers. In fact, if I remember correctly, in 1980, we had, of the computer science graduates, more than 30% were women. By 2008, about 18% were women. So young women get messages that they shouldn't do this. Now, I told some of the young women here that my chief technology officer on my campaign is a woman engineer from Google. And I recruited her specifically because I wanted her, she's obviously an MIT graduate, highly experienced and qualified. I wanted her to send a message that we're going to do more to get women into the STEM courses. The computer coding classes, something I want to be able to use federal dollars to help people, particularly women. If you go into these computer coding classes, 12, 16, 20 weeks of teaching, you can get a job because there's such a shortage of people who know how to code computers. The jobs are out there, and you can't let comments or criticism allow you to be knocked off course. And I will just end with this. And I'll let all the men in the audience in on a little secret, if you don't tell anybody. One of the problems smart young women and older women have is what I call the perfectionist gene. If you're not perfect, somebody's going to find out. If you're not perfect, you really shouldn't be trying to do what you're trying. I've seen it my entire life. Occasionally I have experienced it. It is just endemic, and it is something we have to help each other overcome. And certainly in this field, because it's still relatively new, and it's kind of a little bit of the Wild West, particularly in tech businesses, you really have to believe in yourself. And you have to know your good enough is good enough. I've employed a lot of young people over the course of my now long career. Very often when I would say to a young woman, we want to give you more responsibility, we want to give you a promotion, we want you to try a new job, the response would be something like, do you think I can? Right? I never had a young man say that to me. It was more along the lines like, what took you so long? And it's funny, but it's true. And so when you are aiming at an area, and STEM is one thing, but it can be a lot of others, breaking the glass ceiling in business, in the media, whatever. You have to have that confidence that comes first and foremost from those people around you who care about you and keep saying, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And your teachers have to do the same, and they have to call on young women at the same proportion as they call on young men. And they have to be willing to do more work helping young women be successful. And then in the work world, we just have to be much more alert to the overt and covert signals that often discourage young women from going forward. So I think we can do this, and our country needs us to do this. We need every STEM person we can get. These young women who built the bridge that I took the picture with, we need them and many more to be on the front lines of helping us make the kind of economy that is going to usher in a new era of prosperity for America. Thank you all very much.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Capital Connections, your weekly access to politics and policy along the I-89 and I-91 corridors and how it impacts our region. If you have a comment or an idea for a future show, please email me. And please join us again at this same time next week for another edition of Capital Connections.